Greetings and welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight's topic is we're going to be talking. Originally, we said we were going to start working through the Aftermath trilogy, the Star Wars Aftermath trilogy. But as we're recording this, we are smack dab in the middle of COVID-19, basically taking over the world. So, with that, we thought we'd do a little something different tonight. We wanted to come up with a list of books that everyone thinks are good recommendations of books for you to listen to or read while you're probably quarantined inside your house. So
hopefully, if not, get inside.
Yes, if not, yes, listen to Jen, please.
If you can, if
you can, that's true.
Well, yeah, I'm talking
unless
to
you are
people
essential.
who are out there.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm talking to people out there who are just ignoring the orders and doing what they want.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you see the article that came out about someone had a coronavirus party and one of the guys ended up coming up positive?
Serves them right.
Yeah.
And the spring breakers that are going home and testing positive. Assholes.
Yep.
God.
And it's funny. I keep seeing people posting online. They're like, "Don't freak out. All the numbers are going to start going up because they've got more tests." The problem is we don't know if there are new cases or if it's cases we're just now finding out about. So,
yes.
But, yeah, so I forgot to introduce everyone. So I got the standard crew tonight. Everyone's here, Chris and Ray and Sean and Jen. So, like I said, we all came up with a list of books that we wanted to share that we thought would be good reads or listen tos while you're hopefully quarantined at home or hopefully at least taking precautions if you can. So I guess with that said, let's kind of like the other show. Who would like to go first?
Sure,
I'll jump in.
That works too.
Okay. Well, you go ahead.
I'm going to start with one that I started when I went to Mexico. Because
it's like 17 years
17 years ago, yeah.
I was gonna say, when was this?
Oh, he's a long time ago.
I've never even been to Mexico.
Neither have I.
You're not missing much.
Where is it?
Shut up.
So I went there and spent most of the time just chilling and not doing much, hanging out on the beach and stuff. So I got through the first Lord of the Rings book. And so by the time I was through that one, I actually started the second one as well. So I highly recommend the Lord of the Rings series. It is a long-ass read. You have a long-ass time in your house. So you might as well spend it by reading about every little blade of grass and what it looks like and how it's all. Because, hey, why not? Because you can't go outside and look at it all because, you know.
Asshole. That was one of the only ones I'd come up with because I did not prepare for this very well.
Well, it is such a long. I'll give you The Hobbit, okay?
I picked The Hobbit, yeah.
Yeah.
I have an entire shelf full of Tolkien's books on my rack over here. I've read most of them, but there's a few anthologies and exploring the worlds that I haven't read, so I'm going to read those today.
And once you get into his style of writing, you can definitely get through it. But it is a long read.
You just skip through the ballads and stuff.
Yeah. Because, the movies cut out quite a bit from the books, right? So there's certain things that are definitely cut out that make it more interesting in certain aspects. And now that I've watched the movies, Ian McKellen. Anyway, that is Gandalf to me, right? So as I'm, I'm definitely listening to his voice in my head as I'm hearing the story and stuff. So, yeah. So I'm gonna start with Lord of the Rings and steal it from Jen because, again,
dude.
Oh no, babe.
Should have went first.
Huh? They're only. I wonder if these are abridged. I was going to say, because it's like the Fellowship of the Ring is 19 hours. That's still pretty long, but
jeez, 19 hours.
That's what I'm saying, though.
But hell, Stephen King's books are longer than that. So, But yeah, no, yeah, like the cliff notes for it is still like that thick. It's ridiculous. So there's a lot in there.
It's also what is written, right? Like there's certain, he's making up a lot of words too. There's certain things like that where you gotta kind of figure that out. And then, like I said, he takes about 3 pages to describe one blade of grass.
It's a lot.
So
I only got through the first 4 chapters of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that would definitely be one I'd have to listen to. So
I would concur, though. Great series, great storyline. Like, if you like fantasy, it's a lot, but it's worth it.
it's still kind of the gold standard. I mean, everyone kind of, for a while there was thinking, oh, well, maybe, what's his name who did the Song of Ice and Fire may kind of be the new standard. But yeah, but it's, until he finishes the series, I mean, he still hasn't finished that series yet. And from what most people said, how the HBO version went, it's like, well, it's still good, but some people thought it was okay, but a lot of people did not think it stuck the landing. So, my only problem with watching the Lord of the Rings movies is it was like, okay, maybe we should have just picked one of the endings instead of doing all of them.
It just didn't stop.
Yeah, that was kind of ridiculous. It was like, okay, and scene. And fade back in.
But then, yeah, gotcha.
We were at the Port Elgin Theater before they changed the seats there, and
Oh, God.
it was bad. And then, so partway through, right where it's like getting really interesting, I'm like, oh, okay, this is like, we're ready for all of a sudden it's an intermission. We're looking at each other like, what the hell? So there's this
People were having strokes. Like the blood clots were horrible.
So we get up and we walk around, I guess, and then we sit back down and they start back up, and then it ends.
Happen.
And then it ends again, and we go to stand up, and it was like, oh no, it's not over yet. And then the last one we waited. We
were sitting down waiting just to make sure until the credits.
Okay, there's the credits. Now we can.
Yeah, now we can get.
How fun would it have been to have been the projectionist at that time? And as it fades to black, you start to turn on the house lights, and you turn it back down. And you keep doing that. That would have been awesome.
So
if
mean.
It was Sean, he would have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would have had to do it once, just.
Or just for one showing. Where you think it ends the first time, that's where you end it, and you just shut up and shut it.
And then you're talking to your friends later, and they're like, "That's not what happened."
What about the other ending? What do you mean the other ending?
That's like that. Did y'all see where that guy went in and edited Toy Story 3, and like right as they're all holding hands and they think they're about to get burned up, he like caused it to fade to black and then started doing the stuff and showed it to like his mom, and she's like, that was it? That's how it ended?
That's funny.
Oh my god.
I was like, oh, that's hilarious, but you're a son of a bitch.
I knew Pixar was dark, but not that dark.
Yeah, I know, right?
Damn.
So, Chris, would you like to go next?
Sure.
All right.
Steal my other one.
Yeah.
Well, no, you haven't even read this one, so I'm good. So I'm gonna pick Harry Potter. Read
good series
because Jim Dale is amazing, and I will say so. One of the YouTubers and podcasters that you listen to, Steve Dangle,
because hockey's not going right now.
Because hockey's canceled. He is doing a couple of Harry Potter videos, and he didn't discover the series until he was 30. He's 30 now, or is he 31?
He's 32 or 33. So.
Okay, so he's younger than we are, but it's the same thing as me. I didn't get into the series or anything until I was about 30, so I could really relate to it. So I love it, and I'm a Potterhead now, and I listened to the books I think like 4 or 5 times now, and we're missing one of the books in our series. We're missing
somebody borrowed it. Order of the Phoenix?
Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
We're missing the Order of the Phoenix. Somebody borrowed it and we never got it back. But yeah.
Harry Potter, if it's you, please bring it back.
Harry Potter is amazing. And it's a good way to sort of get lost in a world that's not here with a pandemic going on.
Yes.
It is on my list of things to read, but yes.
It's a good read. Like the good, Steve Dangle said he got good advice with the first book. You have to remember that the first book is a children's book, and the books age as the audience ages.
And they age appropriately,
yes,
for
they
sure.
do. But the first book is geared to 11 to 12-year-olds, so you have to keep that in mind when you're reading it.
Yeah.
I didn't read them until last year, I think.
Mm.
So I would have been 40, 41. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, but I mean, I did keep that in mind. I'm like, okay, you know, it's definitely geared for kids. And,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it was a fun read. And, yeah, by the time it gets to the end, it's like, yeah, this is getting all on the dark side. So,
Those are dark.
Yeah.
Yes.
so, yeah.
Heavy for sure.
Yeah.
Jen, what's a book on your list that you would recommend?
Before we steal it.
I was gonna suggest the Wicked books by Gregory Maguire. We read a book of his years ago. I think it was the one about Cinderella, the ugly stepsister?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he wrote Wicked, which is of course the untold story of the Wicked Witch of the West.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of the prequel to her, to Wizard of Oz, according
Mhm.
to the way that he sees it. And it's, like the way that we saw the Wizard of Oz, this is really kind of the complete opposite, like Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, was portrayed as being this awful, wicked person. And of course, this shows her as not that. So it's pretty
Mhm.
interesting.
This is the one that
But-
they based the
The musical. One, right?
musical and stuff on, right?
Yeah. So it's pretty dark. The book is a lot darker than the musical. The musical is great, beautiful, and like great music, and just Idina Menzel played Elphaba in the original. But yeah, the book is definitely a lot darker, and then there's actually 3 books after it, and I like blew through all 4 of them as soon as I read the first one. I needed to know what happened.
Cool.
So it talks about like Son of a Witch, which is about her son, and then after that, there's like the backstory to the Cowardly Lion, and then yeah, it gets really weird, but
Oh, cool.
really interesting fantasy / like there's some magic, but then there's a lot of things that you think are magic, and then they kind of explain it away. And anyways, I'm not doing a great job of selling this, I don't feel like, but
Oh, that sounds really cool.
but yeah, if you're into fantasy, it's definitely a neat like alternate story to what could have happened in that world, because
You're writing these down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
I wrote it right there.
Yeah, I'm thinking if I'm not writing them down right now, I'm probably gonna have to go back and re-listen to this episode, because I'm getting to the point. I'm like, I really don't want to read certain things that I normally read now. Like I was kind of on a big Stephen King kick, and right now I'm like, I don't know if I really want to read about the world coming to an end.
No, not feeling. No.
Yeah, so yeah, I may have to go back and pick up some of these that we're recommending. So, Sean, what do you got for us?
First one is a bit lighthearted. It's a bit big, and you can open it any page and start reading it and just totally enjoy it. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Big
I
one?
enjoyed it.
I recommend reading it if you can, but the audio version, like they've done so many different audio versions. You can do the radio broadcast, which is really funny. But I love that book. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's funny, Christy was asking me something about that the other night. She goes, "What is the book where the answer is something like 40 something?" I'm like 42, and it's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and she's like,
40
okay.
something.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
when
even
we were tossing trash at the river cleanup, we have to yell the number of the bag that we're on, and there's like 2 of us, so we're alternating. And when we get to 42, the guy throwing trash with me goes, "Which is?" And I was like, "The meaning of life, the universe, and everything." I feel like I got a lot of street cred from that, because
Good deal.
nerds bonding over nerd
Yeah.
things.
Yep. Speaking of Yoda, there is.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Yoda is my mentor.
Nice.
I got this at Capital Factory.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a good book. I did enjoy it. I had not read it until we read it for the show.
Yeah, neither did we.
Yeah, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, we have the whole anthology. We have all of Douglas Adams' works, and we'd never read it, but we've seen the movie like at least
Oh, I
half a dozen
love the
times.
movie, and I know it's a sore spot for some people, but I really think that the movie captured the essence of what the book was trying to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Did you ever watch the old TV series?
No.
There's a TV
No.
show? What?
Oh my god, it is.
It's like
hard to
BBC,
watch,
isn't it? Like it's
especially Zaphoid, because it's like a paper mache head coming out. It's so bad. But,
It's so bad. Have you guys seen the meme going around right now where it says, "Has anybody checked to see if the dolphins are still here?"
Yes.
Like, it's a good point,
Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard them sing so long and saying thanks for all the fish yet.
right?
But,
Yeah.
Because you've been around so many dolphins in the lake.
In the lake.
they're there. As so are sharks, according to Logan when she was about 7.
Oh, okay.
The first book I have is actually one that I've recommended that we read on this show at some time, and if not here, maybe even the Creatively Geeky show, and that is Every Tool is a Hammer by Adam Savage. It's a very short read, but it talks about how he got started being creative. It talks about, like, he goes into specific things about his shop. He goes on this long thing talking about, like, checklist, like how he does checklist and how that's changed things. But he even
This is
talks
like
to,
porn for Eugene, you guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was so good. Like, it's fantastic, because he even talks about some of the stuff that he did, like, working at ILM and everything else, and it's just it's a great book. But, like, he even starts it off talking about how he goes to these these maker events or whatever. Apparently he usually gives a speech on Sundays when they were having them, and he didn't know that everyone called him Adam's not eulogy. What am I thinking? His Sunday sermon from Adam Savage, which he of course thought was awesome. But at one point he talks about how people will come up and go, yeah, I like looking at all this maker stuff, but I don't make anything. I just bake. And he's like, no, you are making stuff. Like,
that
your
counts.
medium is food. Like, that is something that I know very little about, or I'm not very good at. And he's like, don't ever discredit yourself. Like, if you write, if you program, if you, like I said, if you bake, if you do whatever, you are still making. Don't discredit that. Just because it's not with wood or plastic or metal or something like that, that does not mean you are not a maker. So, of course, he's such a phenomenal guy. Like, he's just one of those guys that's just like, yes, everyone looks up to you because you're an awesome dude and you also make awesome stuff. So, yeah, but yeah, if you get a chance to read Every Tool is a Hammer, it's actually really good. So, all right, Ray, what's your next one?
Well, okay, so I'm going to go with this one. It's one that we have reviewed on this, the entire series. But if you haven't started it yet, you might as well take the time to do it now. That's the Magic 2.0 series. There are so many.
There's 6 of them.
There's 6 of them, right? And there's more coming. And I really enjoyed the series overall. There was a couple books that we kind of maybe didn't like, or
didn't like as much
as
but others.
But I still love the world that they've created in it, and Scott, he created, and so yeah, it was. I don't know. We've reviewed it enough on this show.
That we have.
So,
I'm so surprised you brought that up.
I'm really, like, I'm going back and re-listening to stuff, and I'm really kind of looking for stuff that's a little more lighthearted, like I said, because I'm not really in the mood for anything really dark right now, and I keep pushing that off because I know I've got that gem just sitting there. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I'll just rip through these again, but then what am I going to do after that? So I'm kind of forcing myself to dig a little bit deeper before I go back to it, because I know I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to listen to it for probably I don't even know how many times now.
I can't listen to the same thing over and over like that.
I'm
done. I just want to move on and do something else.
See, I can, because usually I put it on in the background, and then
I can't do
that. I can focus on other stuff, and then when I'm like, oh yeah, that's the part where Martin does the thing, that's great, and then I can go back to doing what I'm doing. So yeah. But yeah, some people can, some people can't. Like I try to usually like when it comes to TV, I try to usually force myself to keep because I've got so much stuff on my Netflix queue. I keep trying to push myself to watch something new, but then there are just these things I keep going back to. I'm like, well, I just need something on in the background. Time to watch the IT crowd again. So
yeah, I just put stuff on in the background just to have a noise in the background. Not that I'm really listening to it. but I've seen The Office. Like, I've put The Office on like 3 or 4 times, the series. I think I'm on my 3rd run of Parks and Rec.
I didn't watch The Office before, and then when she was watching it about her 3rd or 4th time through,
Yeah.
I'm catching parts of it. I'm like, I've seen this one before. She said, you've seen all of them. I'm like, no, I haven't. No, I haven't.
I have.
Because you've started it about 5 different times, and I know I've missed at least 18 of them before this one. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Chris, what's your next book?
So my next one is one I'm almost done. I think I only have like 2 more chapters left. I thought I was going to finish it last night, but couldn't.
she fell asleep.
I fell asleep. It's called Taliesin by Stephen R. Lawhead. I've read one of his other books before called The Skin Map. So Ray had bought this book, I don't know how many years ago, but it's part of my whole New Year's resolution to read all of our books before buy any new ones. Yep. So Taliesin, this is book 1 of the Pendragon cycle, and there's 5 books. This one was written in 87, I believe. So they're all out now, which is nice. It's high fantasy. This one is about a druid prince and an Atlantis princess, and it sort of sets up the King Arthur and Camelot. So this book is Taliesin. The next one's called Merlin. So that's the one I really want to read. And then it's Arthur, Pendragon, and Grail. So this is the startup to Merlin and then King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I'm really, really liking it. I've never read a book like this before where it's really high fantasy. And it took me a little bit to get into it because it goes through, it switches between 2 points of view each chapter. And one I liked more than the other at the beginning, and then it switched halfway through. And then now it's not ending the way I thought it was, but I understand why. But I'm surprised I like it. So that's
very cool.
It's been good. I think I might recommend it for the book club at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like 500 pages, but it's a good one.
Good deal. Jen, what's your next book?
I'm gonna go nonfiction. This was a book that really, I don't know, it just really hit me and helped me understand the importance of a lot of environmental issues. And it's The World is Blue by Sylvia Earle. I really haven't read any of her other books, but she's kind of one of the, seminal environmentalists. And this was the first book of hers that I read, and it just talks about the importance of the oceans, how they're kind of the lifeline of our planet, and we wouldn't exist without them, and how we're kind of, destroying them like humans do. Yeah, and it was just like so easy to understand, and she goes into like all the different species and the role that they play and how we're decimating those populations, and then how they serve as like sinks for carbon, and we're dredging that up, and just the pollution and the temperature and everything, climate change. So, I found it was really interesting and informative. So that would be my suggestion if you're looking for something a little deeper than the fun fantasy stuff that we all love.
Oh, good deal. Of course, I don't know if you really want to make yourself like, more depressed, but okay.
Right. Yeah, there's that, but the issues are still there.
That's very true.
The good news is with everything that's going on, all the cars and boats and planes have stopped. Dolphins have come back into parts of Italy, and it's kind of cool.
The carbon and greenhouse gases are actually down in the atmosphere, which is great, but it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts, unfortunately.
There was a bear in his sister's backyard the other day.
Yeah.
She had a black bear. It was kind of funny.
Oh,
Big black bear in her backyard.
Okay.
Yep.
funny.
It's a known one. It comes down every spring, and then it goes back up every fall.
He's known. We're like, oh, hey.
Yep.
It's Bob,
It's him again. Yeah, it's Bob.
What's up, Bob?
Sean, what's your next book?
My next one is Battlefield Earth.
Ah.
All right.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So, just warning, it's written in a different time.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, if you're a feminist, you're not gonna like it. The women characters are really fucking weak. But hey, it's a good way to kill 47 hours if you want to listen to it.
47 fucking hours.
47 hours?
That's a full work week and then some overtime.
One book or the series?
No, there's only one book.
How
So
long is the book? Like,
It
how many
is-
pages is it?
Jesus.
now, if you're gonna listen to the audiobook, it is a radio, or not a radio, but it's a drama. So it has a full cast ensemble.
Wow.
It's really well done. The story is really good. It takes place at the year 3000. Humans are an endangered species from an alien group that came down and basically wiped them out in like 7 minutes, kind of thing. Yeah, the story is really good, and it just keeps going on and on. Like, I'm not gonna spoil it for you, even though it's like I could probably talk for an hour and not really spoil it. So, but
Since it's a 47-hour
if
book.
you're locked in the house and you have some time,
Yeah.
there you go.
Which we do.
Yep.
And
Jeez.
it's written. It is a classic. It's a science fiction. If you're into science fiction, you need to read it at some point because it's one of those high points. Even though, like the story's written around this time. Like even Larry Niven. I love Larry Niven stuff, but pretty well every woman character in a Larry Niven novel is garbage. Like it's like women were only secretaries and stuff like that.
So
In
you're
his
saying
day,
you
that's
hate
what they were.
women. Cool.
I don't think he hates them, but
No, you like his work, so you hate women.
no, I did not say that. Anyway, I'm not going down that road. Anyway, but the
Anyways.
stories themselves, the kernels of the stories themselves, if he wrote them today, I'm sure they'd be a little different, but the kernel of the stories are always really, really good. It's just every now and then something will like happen, like a woman character will be in a story or something like that, and you're like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, even when I say that, that's bad. So, but because of like Larry Niven stuff, like Ringworld and stuff like that, I love those books. But yeah, you got to take it with a grain of salt too. It's like, oh man, dude, smarten up a little.
Yeah.
But, hey, I'm saying that. I realize it. I see the problem. I recognize
You've
it.
acknowledged it.
Right. It would be completely different if you were like, no, these are really good books. Everything about them is fantastic. We all read them. We're like, Sean, we need to
Except-
talk. Yeah.
There's a disclaimer here. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like
It'd be like reading
movies with the kids today, like or yesterday. I really want to show them Blazing Saddles. But I gotta sit down and talk to them first.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some things you
Yeah.
got to clarify first.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like Mel
Yeah.
Brooks. I love Mel Brooks.
Oh, no,
Well,
I do too.
Today's
And-
day and age.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've had to do that a couple of times with a few movies. We're like, now remember when this was made.
Listen,
Yeah.
even Star Trek: The Next Generation, they do a whole storyline about the Native Americans being sent to a different planet,
Oh, yeah.
and they're
Called.
called
The
Indians
Indians.
in that time frame.
And Logan was
And
like
Logan's like, "Oh my God, I can't!" And I'm like, "Dude, it's
This is like
respectful.
91.
It's still they're still showing a lot of respect for it and everything. It's just that's what they called them then, and that's
And
what
they
you
don't
have to
now.
accept." And yeah, so
Yes.
it's like reading Huck Finn now.
Yeah.
You can't like it's
You have to remember when
you have
it's
to
written.
remember the written
When
the
it's
era
written.
that it's written in. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
I
all.
agree.
I just wanted to put that out there. That's all. But highly recommend.
Yes.
Is this the one with the John Travolta movie?
Yes. This is
Yes.
Ron
Yes.
L. Hubbard, the
Hey,
dude
don't-
who made
no,
Scientology.
don't.
This is his book.
See, that's why I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Ron Hubbard. Okay.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Like, so his religion isn't doing well. That's too bad. I feel bad.
Oh my God.
But anyway,
Yeah, you're not selling this book anymore.
I like the movie was well, I mean, it was
no,
not
don't base the
very
movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
the movie is well known and very well documented for being horrible.
horrible.
Of course,
Yeah.
as soon as you said 47 hours, the first thing I thought was, how did they condense that into one movie? Like,
Not well.
No.
yeah, obviously.
No.
So listen,
well.
chapters 1 through 30 are gone. We're just gonna start here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the first book that I have here is one that I've considered maybe recommending for the book club. I just don't know how well there's some places where it gets a little on the gory side.
Mm.
But other than that, it's two different books. They're written by Daniel Suarez, and it's the first one is called Demon, and it's spelled Daemon.
I read
Okay.
those.
Yes, and then the second one is Freedom TM, as in
Oh,
trademark.
the guy that always kicks my emails back. God, I hate that guy.
Yep.
Yeah, that guy.
Demon.
Yeah. And so basically what it's about is this guy, he's extremely smart. He was a huge video game developer, and he dies. And when he dies, he unleashes a demon on the world that proceeds to it's not like a demon. It's a computer program.
The
And what's
opposite of Ready Player One.
a little bit, yes.
He dies and kills everybody instead.
And what it does is this demon is slowly but surely infecting like every single like mainframe computer out there and all these different companies and stuff, and to the point that, and then it flat out tells them, if you try to get rid of me, then I'm going to destroy all your assets, period. And so they ended up kind of protecting it, and as it goes on, you're finding out, the governments and stuff are trying to figure out a way to shut it down. There's some individual characters that it follows as to what their role is with everything. But then the other part of it is he's basically starting a revolution. And so on the other side, in the second book, you start finding out this stuff, like people are starting to use this, the network that it creates, the dark net. They're walking around with these glasses on, and it's an AR system. You can walk around and see people or whatever. And you walk around and your prestige is basically how everyone else sees you. So like people rate you and they're like, I'm a level, 43 engineer or whatever. And they're able to do things that interact with this virtual world. But some of these people start going together and they're just like, you know what? The world that we have now doesn't make sense. So we're going to start making basically off the grid places, and we're going to make everything renewable. We're going to use 3D printers to make everything here so we don't make stuff and ship everywhere. And like, it's a very, what you start with and what you end with is really, really like fantastical, but it's such a good book. But there are a couple of parts in there that get pretty gory, and like I said, like I'm okay with it, but I mean, listening to it is just kind of like, ooh, that's a little cringy. But otherwise, it's a really, really good series. All of his books are very very highly technical based. So even though he's putting these ideas together that are pretty still far out in the future, everything has an inkling now. Like you can go, yeah, I could see things going that way eventually. So. But yeah, I may end up recommending the series to the group sometime. And like I said, the first one's called Demon and the second one's called Freedom TM. So, all right. And you said, Sean, you've read them, right?
Yeah. I was on a Suarez kick there for.
Oh yeah, he's
trying Audible.
Really good stuff.
Because I think Damon was the first one, and then I was like, oh god, I got to hear more of his stuff. I don't think I've heard the second one. I didn't know there was a second one to it. Because it's been a long time.
Yeah, Freedom TM picks up. He's done some other really good ones. He's got one about killer drones, which is scary as hell. But that's also a really good book. The characters that he has in his books though are also very likable, and you really end up caring for these characters and as they go along. So, which is really nice because sometimes you read a book and you're just like, that's a good story. The characters are so. All right, Ray, what's your next one?
All right, so if you want a bit of a stronger female character, so I went with it's the Bright Empires collection. So the first one is called the Skin Map, and it's one that I was getting through, and then I don't know why I've stopped reading it. I don't know how many times because other things kept coming up. But Chris read the first one through. I'm going to be forcing myself to read it through as well because I've got time on my hands. So, but there's four books altogether, I believe. So the Skin Map, the Bone House, the something Spirit, something. Anyway, there's 4 of them in the series.
This is also by Stephen R. Lawhead, the one that who wrote the Pendragon.
The Pendragon, yeah.
Okay.
So, I really liked it because it picks up really quickly.
Yes, it's very fast paced.
And it gets into
ley
lines, which some people naturally have ability to change what reality they're in, I guess. Like they go from one version of the world to another. So it's this infinite
different
world.
Dimensions,
Yeah,
like
infinite
parallel
universe.
Yeah.
Infinite worlds type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting book. And a couple people go through these ley lines without really knowing that they were doing it. And the one character, I really liked what she was starting to get into.
Wilhelmina.
Yes. Yeah.
Wilhelmina kicks ass.
She kicks ass because she kind of,
because at the beginning it's from her boyfriend's point of view, and he sort of depicts her as this sort of like complaining, nasally, whiny person, and then what she really is she just didn't like him.
Yeah.
And they weren't good together.
They weren't.
So really she's this really great, self-sufficient, kick-ass chick, and she's just like, I don't even miss him. Huh. Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. He's a bit of a drip.
Well, what I also liked about her too was, she's like, okay, well, I'm here now.
Yeah.
What can I do to better myself? And so she keeps going through and trying to better.
She makes the best of her situation.
Yeah.
She actually does with it really, really well.
She does a lot better than a lot of people I know.
A lot better than her boyfriend does.
Yeah. All right, dust myself off. Let's go. Let's do the next part. So it was a good read from where I've gotten to, and then I'm going to continue the series because it's very enjoyable, and I enjoy the grandfather. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, you have a hard time reading at night though.
I do, because I usually read the same paragraph about 5 times and then wake up with the book on my face.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
But it is on Audible, so I might get the next.
Oh, is it?
I might get the next few series.
Now you're talking my language here.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Good deal. All right, Chris, what's your next one?
So
sorry, I just read it. I'm gonna go get water while you try to explain this one.
No, it's just okay. It's a total guilty pleasure. The movies were all on Netflix, so I binge watched them. Logan rolled her eyes a lot at me.
I know what it is.
Yeah. So it's Twilight by Stephanie Meyer.
My God.
Total trash. But I can't help. It was the first. So for me, it's sort of. I didn't really read at all. I stopped reading when I was about 13, and I didn't pick it back up until I was about 28 years old. So any book report I had to do in school, I always read the beginning and the end, and then started talking to my friends and sort of figured it out with any report. So I just never read, and I never got into it. And it wasn't until I was 28, and I had a friend basically shove a book in my face, like, no, you're reading it, which was Eat, Pray, Love, which is not one that I would recommend right now. So then I picked up Twilight after seeing the first movie, which was terrible. The movies are awful. And I'm like,
didn't we go to the movies for your birthday?
Oh, yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, every year they come out your freaking birthday and be standing out there.
Yep. And that's the
Such
thing.
a friend.
With my friends, that's what we would do. We'd go to dinner, movie, go to the bar. So then I read Twilight.
Do things.
Exactly, do things. So I read Twilight and then immediately had to get the next 3 books, and then ignored everybody in my family. Mind you, I had little kids. Like Logan was 4 and Quinn was 2. Ignored them for a good week and a half. Like Ray would come home
and be like,
the house is a mess. Nothing's
what's
done.
going on? Are you okay? And she's,
kids are fine. They're good.
everything's fine. What are you making for dinner?
Yeah, I got nothing. I'm reading the book. And then once I came out of it, then I was.
So because she was so into them,
read
I
them.
had to go and like,
them.
what is about this book
Yeah.
that's so good?
Nothing. It's just
Yeah.
trash. But it's just guilty. It's a guilty pleasure. You can
I'll
totally
still
suck it
throw
in.
the movies on for once in a while just to.
I don't watch them.
Did you ever read The Host
Yep.
Yes.
by her? I actually enjoyed the book. The movie was pretty shitty.
The movie was not
the
good, no.
movie-
Even though it was Saoirse Ronan, I watched it again after like years and years, and I was like, wow, that was really bad.
The book was okay, and it ended right when it got good.
Yeah, that was my problem with the book, was that I thought they could go so much further with
She
it.
could have written like 2 or 3 of them.
And
Yeah, I feel like she could have kept that series going because it had an
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
I really like the idea of it and the whole premise of aliens coming in and like just overtaking our bodies, and now we're just puppets and they're actually living our lives for us, and then there's like this human resistance. But it literally ended when it got good.
Yep.
And it was like 1,000 pages, and I remember being so mad when that happened. But yeah, the Twilight series, we've got time. I mean,
if you're desperate and you need something to read,
I'm not desperate. I would totally read it, and I'm not in that situation. I want to read them again.
Read Lord of the Rings first, and The Hobbit, and The Silmarillion,
Read some good
and
stuff first.
every other
Yeah.
George Carlin's autobiography,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
5,000-page book Sean suggested. Like,
Yeah.
read it all before that one.
Then read Twilight.
There's a place for trash though. Like, some people are like,
Yeah.
some reading and some television watching and movie watching is, you're feeding yourself.
Yeah.
And it's good stuff. It's, proteins and good carbs and stuff like that. Sometimes you just need a snack. Sometimes you just need garbage
I need a
food.
snack.
And
you need that bag of chips. And
That's
This is
right.
a giant
This-
bag of smart food popcorn.
Yeah.
This is what these books are. It's not good. It looks like it's going to
I
be
wouldn't
good.
even
Totally
qualify it
not.
as that because that's
Smart
kind of
food's
insulting to the
terrible for
popcorn.
you. Smart food's awful for you. It's terrible.
I will say this about the series. I'm going to say this about the series.
You liked Alice.
Alice was a good character. The other thing that I did enjoy was, I can't remember which book it was in. All of a sudden she switched the characters that we followed, and we went to, was it
It's Jacob's point of view.
the wolf. Anyway, and I
It was
liked
Breaking
reading.
Dawn.
It was, yeah. So I liked reading his perspective
Yeah.
because it was actually decent. Because you could,
It was funny.
it was funny. He was kidding around. I'm like, okay, this I can handle. And then all of a sudden, I went back to the other. I was like, okay, we're back. Oh,
Edward.
Edward. Dear God.
Who names your kid Renesmee?
Relationship.
Oh, the Renesmee thing pissed me
Oh,
off.
my God.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah.
Even watching the movies, I get mad.
every
Every
time.
time.
She's like, such a cop out.
Every time.
Okay.
You knew how this was ending. Like, why are you mad?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Jen, what's your next book?
I'm going to suggest Trevor Noah's book, Born a Crime.
Crime.
It's very funny. It's got some sad moments in it. And he narrates it if you listen to it, so it's in his wonderful voice. And he's just so funny and smart and talented, and like he speaks like 5 languages literally.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy's like just genius level, and he breaks out into them sometimes, and he's great at impressions. So you get to hear all of this throughout the book. But really neat to hear how he grew up in, South Africa. He was literally born a crime because it was illegal to be, a mixed race person at that time. And then that kind of like went away while he was a child. And so it just talks about how the world changed and how he came here kind of. So yeah, definitely.
I haven't read his yet. His is on my to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, because I don't watch a lot of the clips. They don't tend to get posted to like my Facebook feed as much as like what's his name that does the one on HBO. But whenever he does, he's extremely smart and he's extremely
So
funny. I think he was a good choice to take over the Daily Show.
Trevor, if you're listening, I am still single and waiting for you. So just putting that out there, okay?
She's
So
here.
everybody knows him. I'm waiting. Just waiting.
Good deal. Sean, what's your next one?
My next one is a comedy. It's based off of a television series, which I've recommended before on other shows. Don't think anyone's taken it up yet, but it is Red Dwarf. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Now, the writers for Red Dwarf, the creators of the show, they wrote these 2 books together, and then they had a falling out, and they each wrote 1 book, and they both sucked. So there's 4 books out there, but just read the first 2. If you get a chance, watch Red Dwarf. It is so funny. But the books themselves are extremely funny. If you're listening to them, they're narrated by one of the characters on Red Dwarf, Chris Berry, who is absolutely brilliant. And if you actually watch the show and then listen to the books, he's got their accents down perfectly.
Nice.
Like, you're almost listening to the characters on the show. It's so good. But the scenarios they get into, so like basically Red Dwarf is, you're on a mining ship called Red Dwarf. The lowest guy on the ship, Dave Lister, he's a 3rd technician with his boss, senior technician, Arnold Rimmer.
Radio Tech Mac.
Yeah. He basically, he got drunk one day on Earth playing like a Monopoly board game on his birthday, and woke up on the moon of Titan or something like that with no passport, and like he figured his only way to get home was hop on a mining ship. And then when they got back to Earth, he just bailed on his contract, not realizing that he was going out into space first, and it was going to be years. So fast forward a little bit, he makes up a plan where he would go into a stasis booth as punishment, give up his pay, and then he'd just wake up on Earth. Well, unfortunately, when he was in the stasis booth, they had a radiation leak, and the ship took off into deep space, and it wakes him up 3 million years later. So he's the last man alive. The cat that he brought on board was pregnant, and they evolved into Felis sapiens. And there's one on board. It was the son of the lame and the idiot kind of thing. The computer that runs the ship, Holly, has gone computer senile over the 3 million years. And to keep Dave sane, they bring back a hologram of his boss, Arnold Rimmer, who's a complete smeghead. So it's the 4 of them. The series is absolutely brilliant. You gotta watch it. It's so funny. The books are all the episodes, pretty much all the episodes in the series with a little bit more explanation in them, and the order's jumbled up a little bit. So, but if you haven't seen the series, not a big deal. But if you have, then you kind of like, oh, okay, this makes a little more sense and all that. But highly recommend. So they're on Audible. The first one is Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers, and the second one is Better Than Life, which is a computer game where you like actually plug it into your hypothalamus and all that, and you believe you're there. But the program protects itself, so you don't even know you're in it. So your body slowly dies. So anyway.
Okay.
They're like, if you're gonna listen on Audible, the first one's only like 8 hours, the second one's only like 6. So it's not a long read or anything like that. But totally recommend. So funny.
Is it British?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That
Sounds
makes more
British.
sense.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It is extremely British.
Yeah.
But I was raised on that, so it's not a big deal.
It reminds me of like random Doctor Who episodes.
Oh yeah. Like,
Yeah.
They had an American version that never aired, but I saw it anyway. And they had the cat played by Terry Farrell. She played Jadzia Dax in DS9. Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Yeah. And when I first saw her, I was like, whoa, what the fuck? So like it was really weird. Like in the British version, the original version, Dave Lister is like this kind of pudgy little guy, like it looks like a slob and all that. But the American version, it's like this statuesque, big-chested guy. Like,
yeah,
ew, you're really screwing with this.
Yeah.
But he didn't make it. So
yeah,
they had a pilot, and that was it.
I've heard lots of good things about Red Dwarf from several different people, yourself included. But like all the different podcasts I've listened to, people have mentioned it.
They're still making them.
Yeah.
So they're coming out with a movie this year within a couple months. Now, this is the second movie. They've done the first one. It was like just a 90-minute 3-part episode all put together. It has moments, but it really wasn't that great. but then they did 3 more series after it, and they brought like back to the old school, like back on the Red Dwarf and all that. They were hilarious. They were really good. So.
Cool.
My book I decided because I've got a lot of Stephen King, and we had talked about at one time possibly doing a Stephen King book on the show. So I thought, well, which one would I recommend? And I think this is going to be my recommendation anyway. I've gone back and re-listened to this one multiple times. I love Dracula. I love the story. It's an interesting way that it's told. I know it kind of throws some people off because it's basically just a bunch of collections of journals, and there's some conversations, but it's like journal, information, newspaper clippings, and stuff like that. And he was inspired by that. If you listen to the audio version, he has a foreword where he reads it himself, and he's basically just telling the story about how when he was young, I think he said his mom was a librarian, or maybe she wasn't, but she read a lot, and she never. There were only a few books that she ever banned him from reading, and most of the time she would just she would read a lot of the stuff that he was reading. She's like, well, this is trash. It's not bad trash, but it's trash. And but she never forbid him from reading anything. So he would read these comic books, and he read all this other stuff. And he talks about how reading Dracula, he really loved it. And then the American comic books made vampires were they weren't like genteel, they weren't like they weren't romantic, they were like monsters, and they were like ripping people apart and stuff like that. And his wife, who is his biggest like fan / editor, like she doesn't pull any punches. Like she's just like, that sucks, you need to rewrite that. She was like, okay, well, he's like, I wonder what would happen if Dracula had come to the Americas, like would he be able to survive? And they had a conversation, and he wrote this book. It's literally the second book he ever wrote. And I love it. I think it's one of his best books. It's a good book. It starts off a little slow, and then once it starts going, it runs, and it runs until the very end. But yeah, if you like vampires, if you like that idea of the more classic vampire, like they have to be invited into the home, they have to, crosses and garlic, hurt them and everything else. And one of the really interesting characters that he has in the book, Father Callahan, ends up going on to his big monster series, which is like what he was really known for, the Dark Tower series. He ends up showing back up in that. And I love Father Callahan. He's a phenomenal character. I liked him in the other books, but this is where you first meet him, and he's a great character. But all of the characters in the book are great. It's it does get rough. You hear, you see, some people, they're like, this woman is abusing her little boy, and she, the traditional, she gets pissed off and hits him, and then there's like apologizes, and so there is some rough stuff there. They get what they deserve in the end. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, if you've never read Stephen King's Salem's Lot, it's a phenomenal book, and like I said, it may be one that I end up recommending for the book club later on. So, all right, Ray, what's your last recommendation for the evening?
So the last one I have is the Kingmaker Kingbreaker series. And it actually leads into another series called The Fisherman's Children. So the first book is called The Innocent Mage.
Oh, okay.
And then the second book is called The Awakened Mage. And then there's The Prodigal Mage and The Reluctant Mage. The first two I've read through. The third one I'd started, and then
You got out of it.
Got out of it. It was just, I was like, okay, I need something new for now, because it was too much at the time. But first two books, bless you. So the first two books I really enjoyed. It's about this guy. He's a fisherman in a fisherman's town, and he goes to seek help. And along the way, he finds out that he actually has magical powers within him, and so the first book's about him learning about that, and then the second book's more about him and a love interest figuring out their magical powers together, and how they used to be a whole bunch of mages, but they were wiped out, and so it's pretty interesting. There's this a pretty good baddie that comes in at the end, and I just, as I'm reading it, I was like, I really want to see this as a movie. I'd like to see this as a series or something where you can actually see the special effects happening on the screen and everything. So it was more the fantasy style, of course, but I enjoyed it, and they are easier reads, especially the first two books were good. So yeah.
Cool. I know you've recommended it before, or you've mentioned it before on the
Yep.
on the
Yep.
show. So
I've recommended it as a title to read a couple of times, but that's okay. I just stopped recommending them.
oh, stop.
Yeah, we read how many books that you suggested? Was it
Not
Magic
many.
2.0? Was it you that suggested that whole
No,
series?
I got us started on Magic
That
2.0.
was-
Okay, the other one then. What was the other
They
one?
got us started, or Ray got us started on the Bobaverse, didn't you?
That was
That was Sean.
That was Sean. Okay,
That
I
was
knew it
Sean.
was one of you two, but I couldn't remember which
Yeah.
one it was.
That was Sean.
By the way, I still owe you for that. That's because that's still one of my. I literally just finished re-listening to it again. I freaking love that series. So, and I love the fact that I'm the one that pointed out to him that the name Fred was used more than once. So
Yeah,
that was
that was good.
because when I was listening to it again, I was like, I knew about that. So
What
anyway.
happens when you listen to it on repeat?
Oh, yeah,
and
over and over and over again, right? Chris, what's your last recommendation?
So my last one is it's more of a kind of like a historical romance time travel book.
Outland.
Yeah, Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I liked it mainly because Jamie Fraser to me is this guy right over here. A lot of the characteristics that Jamie Fraser had, he's got, and I just loved it.
I'm not a
No.
huge Irishman. Like,
He's a
I can't even
Scottish.
watch that
sorry.
trailer on Netflix without wanting to barf.
No, don't watch the show.
I've heard the show's good.
The show's really good. There's one part in the book that was really hard to read, and when I watched the show, it was even harder to watch.
I asked her what
He
the hell
walked
she was.
in
I walked in. I'm
Halfway
like,
through the show,
what the hell are you watching? Like,
what's happening? It's not.
couldn't convince me to watch or
No,
read.
no. After that, he was like, no.
Okay.
But I read the first 3 books and then part of the 4th one. The thing with these ones is they're really meaty. Like, they're very dense. She goes into, like, I think each book is at least 800 pages. So they're very long, lots of detail. She's very good with her history. That woman knows her stuff. But it is a romance, and I liked it. I think there's like 8 or 9 books now. But the first, I mean, if you don't want to read it, but you want to watch it, Outlander, the first season's pretty consistent with the books, and it sticks to the timeline that the book had. And I don't remember what the second book's called or the third one or any of that, but it's a different read, but it is a romance.
Okay.
It's good. Is it?
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Very good. Jen, what's your last pick for the evening?
Well, I'm going to just go with the classic because I'm just having some brain farts today, and I know there's more I want to suggest, but I'm going to say Little Women. If you want to, like, nostalgic classic book, they've made, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 versions of the movie, which are all good, but I read the book and the sequel, when I was a lot younger, and watched the...
Wait, there's a sequel?
Yeah, Little Men.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I seriously thought
Yeah.
that was a joke.
No, it's about like Joe's kids basically.
Okay.
But yeah, I watched the newest one. It was really good. I liked everyone in it and the way they portrayed it. So if you're looking for something sort of lighthearted, I mean, it does take place during Civil War, and there is some sad parts, but
I was gonna say, isn't that the book that Joey
heartwarming.
puts in the freezer?
Yes, because Beth dies. Spoiler alert.
I don't remember that, but okay. Yeah, that part was pretty sad.
Yeah.
Gonna lie.
I
Who's
heard
that
the
by?
newest movie that just came out was really good.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
was.
What's
Yeah, it
the-
had Laura Dern as Marmee.
Mhm.
Saoirse Ronan was Joe. Emma Watson was Meg. I don't know the younger two, but they were good.
Okay.
Who wrote Little Women? I don't remember.
Louisa May Alcott.
Louisa.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Never
was
read it.
like, maybe that's a movie Christy and I could watch. We'll have to see. So, because we have a hard time finding things we'll both watch. So.
Yeah, I liked the Winona Ryder one with
Yeah.
Susan Sarandon being Marmee.
Mhm.
And I like that one. That one's a good one.
Claire Danes.
Claire Danes and Kirsten Dunst and
Watched
Christian Bale as Laurie.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's good, and I really liked it, and I want to see the newer one. It looked really
Yeah,
good.
it was good.
Good deal. Sean, what's your last book for the evening?
I've got two for the last one.
Okay.
Both series. Okay. You trusted me on Bobiverse.
Uh-huh.
So trust me on these two as well. So the first
He's
one,
also the guy that suggested the book that hates women, so.
I don't say it to women, it just ignores them. Anyway. There's a difference.
Mhm.
But there is. Anyway, getting back to the topic here. Oh, and you'll like this one, Jennifer, because there is a really strong female character in this one. She basically runs the show.
Mhm.
The series is Not Alone by Craig Faulkner. No, I don't want to give away too much, but it's kind of a first contact series.
Okay.
The most unassuming guy on the planet becomes the center of this media storm about first contact. And the first book was incredible. And I thought it's a standalone book. Like, they didn't need to continue on afterwards. But the writing and the narration is so well done.
You've recommended this before. It is on my Audible. I haven't bought it yet, so I may have to bump it up then.
It's a 4-book series right now, apparently going to 5. I did not even realize they had a 4th book. It just got released in February of this year.
Oh,
so
okay.
I was like flicking through Audible and I'm like, the hell, they got another book. The first 2 books are excellent. Like the first one, the way it's written is perfect. Second one, still a good story. Third one, got a little out there near the end, but it's friggin' Alien, so we can do. I haven't read the 4th one yet. I'm looking forward to it. And it's one that I can reread over and over again.
Okay.
But the first one, the way the story is driven and like how the media plays and stuff like that, and you're not sure what's real and what's not, it is so good, the twists and turns in it. So even if you just read the first one, it's great. The other series is the Trader Tales series. What is it now? Trader Tales from the Golden Age of a Solar Clipper. It's by Nathan Lowell. It starts out with quarter share, then half share, 3/4 share, captain share. Basically, it takes place in space. Some kid on a farming planet or whatever that his mom gets killed in an accident, and it's a corporate-owned planet, so he has to leave. He's like 16 years old. So either he joins the military or the merchant guild and try to find his way on a ship. The kid's like a history mate, like his mom was a literature professor. Like he's got no abilities, anything. And just through sheer luck, he gets onto a merchant ship, and the whole series takes place over his life, going up the ladder. He eventually becomes a captain. He becomes an owner. It's another one. I've listened to it probably 5 or 6 times. It's such a good series. They actually have a series that takes place after the end of Owner's Share. It's right now, it's like a 3-book series, same author, but I only listened to it once and it almost got a little too technical. The story was missing something, I don't know what. So, but if you just stick with the Trader Tale series, highly recommend it. First, several times I listened to it, the author actually narrated it, and he was putting it out on podcasts.
Oh,
And
okay.
then Audible picked it up, and so it's got a new narrator to it. So it took me a little while getting used to that because I was used to the author narrating the whole thing. But Audible's narrator is really good. After the first book, I was like, okay, I can handle this again.
Gotcha.
What's it called again? What Trader Tale?
So it's the first book is Quarter Share. Just look for that, and
Okay.
if you're looking on Audible, you'll be able to get the whole series.
Okay.
But
Cool.
it is great. Just even the first few books when he's on the same ship and just kind of moving up in the ranks, it's great. It's just a nice read. They don't throw too many curveballs at you and all that, but it's a really good book series.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll have to. Like I said, I've been kind of looking to figure out something else to read, and yeah, I may have to jump on Not Alone when I get my next 2 credits. So, because like I said, it has been. I have had it in my to-do list there. I just haven't picked it up yet. Because like I said, I was getting on a kick here for the last couple of months. I was like, you know what? Let me go read some of Stephen King's other stuff. And then now I'm just like, no, I'm good right now. I need something else. So
The first
I've
book
read
for
any of
Not
his
Alone.
books.
If you just read the first book for Not Alone, because everything like right up to the end is like it could happen. It's like based in reality. It's really kind of neat and all that. Starts getting a little out there for the second and third book and all that. I haven't read the fourth one yet. Really good.
Okay, I'll have to give it a shot.
Cool.
The last book I'm going to recommend kind of ties into the. It does, but it doesn't. Ties into our next series that we're actually going to go through. We're about to start reading the. Well, some of us have actually read the first one at least. The Star Wars Aftermath books. These books are canon. They take place after Return of the Jedi. But like the book I'm about to recommend is not canon. It fell into the, was it Legends or Legacy, whatever they want to call it. But it's done in the exact same.
Of Jennifer's childhood department.
It's done the exact same way those books and pretty much all the Star Wars books are, and this is Star Wars Scoundrels. If you like Han Solo and Chewbacca and Lando Calrissian, and you're like, you know what, I would like to see those guys in like an Ocean's 11 type, deal. That's exactly what this book is. It's fucking those 3 guys picking up some other people, and they're doing it's a heist. And I, as my brother would like to say, I would give my left arm to see them grab the guys that were in, the Solo movie and bring them back and basically adopt this as a movie, because it would be fantastic. Because everyone plays to their strengths. I mean, Lando is Lando, and Han, it's so good. And the voice act, but the best thing about listening to this as compared to reading it is it's like all the other Star Wars books, it's done more like an audio play. So there is a narrator, but they do really good voices, but there's all the different sound effects. There's music playing. There's like whenever the ships come out of hyperspace, you actually hear it, the blasters are fired. Like it is really more like an audio play, and it's so good. It's just, it's a fun story, but to hear it done that way, it's the closest thing you can get to getting another Star Wars movie with it actually having the visuals. So but yeah, I highly recommend Scoundrels. Like I said, it's not canon. I really wish they would pull it in to be canon. Oh, and it was written by Timothy Zahn, who is definitely one of the best Star Wars book writers out there. He also wrote the Thrawn trilogy, which is also not canon, but also absolutely fantastic. So And apparently they got him to come back and rewrite a Thrawn book that is canon now because they brought Grand Admiral Thrawn into the Rebel series, and my boys and I just finished that, and oh my god, that series, it starts off very kiddie, but wow, it by the end, like, I freaking love those characters just as much as I love all the other Star Wars characters. Like, it's fantastic. So, well, that is our episode for the month, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, if you're looking for a recommendation, if you're looking for a book out there, and vice versa, if you know of a book or book series that you think we should be reading, we'd love to hear about it. You can find us at Epically Geeky on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Let's see here. You can also, if you would, please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, wherever you find the podcast. It really does help us out. We do have other shows. We are getting on this monthly rotation. It's taking a little bit of time to work it out, but we're kind of getting it down. So check out the other shows: Epically Geeky, Sustainably Geeky, Creatively Geeky, Procrastinators. Maybe we can try to knock one of those out here. We shall see. Where can we find you, Ray?
You can find me, the Reluctant Yeti, on Instagram, and you can find me on Epically Geeky, and you can also find me on here on Marginally Geeky. Procrastinators, if we ever do another episode. And then eventually you can find me in a new home. We're looking to we'll have a different background here in a couple months. So yeah,
very cool. Chris, where can we find you online?
You can find me here on Marginally Geeky, on Epically Geeky, Creatively Geeky, and Sustainably Geeky with Jen, and and then on Instagram at The Burrow Life.
Good deal. Jen, where can we find you online?
Here on Epically Geeky and Sustainably Geeky, which is the podcast for the everyday environmentalist, and Creatively Geeky, and on the Facebooks, Instagram, and Twitter at Het's Gonna Be Me.
Sean, where can we find you online?
The majority of the geekies, and Facebook.
There you go.
Actually, my picture isn't on Facebook anymore. I took that off, so it's don't
the
panic.
Hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm around.
And as always, you can follow my individual wacky adventure online at Optimus Gene on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone on the site, have a good night.